You listen, you obey. Young man, you are not to move. You're to put your eyes down and look down at the carpet. You're to keep your fingers interlaced behind your head. You're to keep your feet crossed. If you move, we're going to consider that a threat, and we are going to deal with it, and you may not survive. I said keep your legs crossed! Put your hands! Hands up in the air! You do that again, we're shooting you. Do you understand? We are going to shoot you. Do you understand me? Crawl towards me. Crawl towards me!
In the shadowed hallways of a quiet Arizona motel, crawling on his hands and knees, face pressed against the cold floor, Daniel Shaver begged for his life. "Please don't shoot me," he whispered over and over. But mercy never came that night. One shot rang out, forever silencing a man begging for his life. This is the story of how a routine police call turned into a national tragedy.
We're back now with a shocking and deadly police shooting caught on body cam.
Daniel Leighton Shaver was more than a news headline. Born December 29, 1989, he grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, and graduated from Hillwood High School in 2007 and became a hard-working pest control specialist. A devoted husband and father of 2 young daughters, Daniel worked tirelessly to provide for his loved ones. Friends who grew up with him described him as incredibly kind-hearted, a funny skater kid. He always had an upbeat personality. His co-workers used to find him as someone who's very motivated about his work and his family. Due to his work as a pest control specialist, he had to be on a continuous trip throughout the country. And even after all of this, he was a father who FaceTimed his girls every night, and a man who carried cartoon stickers in his wallet to make them smile. His daughters were still so young that they thought their dad's trips were adventures. They would wait for his calls, showing him their drawings over FaceTime. To Daniel, every smile from them was a reason to keep working hard. He was giving his best in life to uphold the expectations of his family and to support the education of his daughters. In January of 2016, Daniel was in Mesa on a business trip and had been staying at La Quinta Inn and Suites. His life, like any ordinary person's, was far from the chaos that would unfold that night. He invited 2 acquaintances, Monique Portillo and Luis Nunez, to his room for drinks. There, he was showing them the gun he carries for his work. What seemed like a typical evening spiraled into a tragedy that would unfold in real time. But in the early hours of January 18, 2016, an anonymous call changed everything. A hotel employee called the police, concerned about a man pointing what looked like a rifle out the 5th floor window. From his vantage point, the silhouette of a man with what looked like a rifle out the window was enough to make his blood run cold. The employee had thought that a shooter had entered his hotel, but what the employee did not know was that the rifle was not a lethal weapon. It was a pellet gun Daniel used to control pests. When police arrived around 9:20 p.m., the quiet atmosphere of the hotel began to change. The buzzing sound of sirens outside had already caught the attention of some guests who peeked nervously through door chains. Others dialed the front desk, trying to understand what was happening. The once quiet corridor now felt like a stage set for disaster. Down the hallway, 6 Mesa police officers moved quickly toward the 5th floor. Their radios buzzed, their boots hit the carpet in heavy steps, and their rifles were raised. The air in the hallway felt tense, almost heavy, as if everyone was waiting for something to explode. To them, this wasn't a simple complaint. It was a possible armed suspect inside a hotel. The lead officer, Sergeant Charles Langley, took charge of the situation, and officers found Daniel's acquaintances leaving the room. Daniel remained inside. Police called repeatedly for occupants to exit, but got no immediate response. Portillo later testified that she and Shaver did not hear these initial commands. But what officers found was far from what was expected. Police then telephoned Shaver's room and again ordered the occupants to step outside. Daniel and Monique Portillo walked into the hallway only after repeated orders. Officers, including the 25-year-old Philip Brailsford with trained rifles on them, started to escalate the tension in the narrow corridor. And what happened next was far from anything expected.
It took people watching my husband die.
As officers approached the room,
Stop! Stop!
Daniel Shaver was inside the dimly lit hallway, disoriented and terrified. What followed was a tense and confusing sequence of commands over the radio and in person. The officers directing Shaver to comply with orders had seemed to change midstream.
Push yourself up to a kneeling position. Crawl towards me! Crawl towards me!
Daniel Shaver, though unarmed and cooperative, found himself navigating through a maze of instructions because of intoxication. He crawled slowly with his fingers spread across the cold floor, pleading with his voice. He started falling short of his breath, and his hands started to shake while his voice cracked. He was trying desperately to avoid upsetting the officers. The officers warned Daniel repeatedly that mistakes would cost him his life. The tension kept rising while fear flooded every second, turning simple instructions into an unimaginable tightrope. What they didn't understand is how can a person cross their legs and crawl at the same time? Yet again, Daniel pleaded with his quivering voice. "I'm trying to comply. Please don't shoot me."
Do you understand? Please do not shoot me.
Every movement was met with fear, a dangerous dance where one wrong step spelled disaster. As Daniel crawled on all fours toward the officers, his right hand moved towards his waistband, reportedly to adjust his shorts, which had fallen during the crawl, leaving his underwear exposed. But in a split second, the balance of tension tore apart.
Hands up in the air!
The deadly shot rang out. Daniel Shaver fell to the floor, life draining from his body amid screams and chaos. The bullet, fired by Officer Philip Brailsford, ended a man's life who had begged for survival mere moments before. But the officer, who later testified he believed Daniel was reaching for a weapon, fired his AR-15 rifle 5 times. Paramedics rushed to the scene, but Daniel's life could not be saved. The surreal horror of the scene was compounded by the fact that Daniel was unarmed. No weapons were found on his person. Hours later, police located the pellet rifles used in Daniel's pest control work inside the hotel room. Harmless tools tragically mistaken for deadly firearms. Philip Mitchell Brailsford was 25 years old at the time of the shooting. He had been employed with the Mesa Police Department since 2013. Brailsford's father was a police sergeant who had also worked for the Mesa Police Department. Brailsford graduated from Mesa Desert Ridge High School in 2009 and had signed up with the Arizona National Guard before being hired by Mesa Police. In December 2017, the department disclosed that Brailsford had been involved in a prior excessive force complaint from 2015 regarding an arrest of teenagers in a store. During the arrest, Brailsford was recorded on video throwing a teenager against a shelf, putting the teenager in a headlock, then slamming the teenager onto the ground. At the time, the incident was publicized, but Brailsford was not named, by a witness to the arrest, who alleged excessive force because the teenagers weren't doing anything, and that's why he had been administratively cleared of the charge. His history became a point of controversy. The shooting incident sent shockwaves through the community. Family, friends, and activists demanded answers, grieving a death they believed was avoidable. Officer Brailsford was placed on administrative leave. The department revealed his rifle contained etched phrases such as "you're fucked" and "Malin Labe," which is Greek expression meaning "come and take it," and associated with the American militia movement. For critics, those words weren't just engravings. They symbolized a mindset, one that saw the public not as people to protect, but as enemies to dominate. Ultimately raising the horrific question that, what does it say about a mindset when an officer's weapon carries those words? Is it warrior cop culture now? News outlets around the country tore apart the bodycam footage, dissecting every second, every command, every whispered plea, focusing on whether Brailsford and other officers followed proper protocol. The use of an assault rifle with such provocative engraving prompted investigations of police culture and training. Did the department foster an environment that encouraged aggression over de-escalation? The courtroom where Officer Philip Brailsford faced charges of second-degree murder quickly became a focal point for national debate over policing, use of force, and justice. Through dozens of hours of testimony, video analysis, and legal arguments, the prosecution and defense set out dramatically different narratives about the fatal shooting of Daniel Shaver. The prosecution painted a portrait of a compliant, unarmed man dying needlessly, emphasizing his clear distress and the chilling threats from officers. "Make a mistake and I'll shoot you." Legal counsel stated, the officer's actions were unnecessary and preventable. A man who posed no immediate threat was shot 5 times, leaving behind a grieving family and a community demanding answers. The body cam footage became a haunting exhibit, showing every agonizing second of Daniel's terror, compliance, and death, forcing the jury and the nation to confront the brutal reality of the shooting. It was not policing, but rather an open, cold-blooded execution. Their case focused on Brailsford's testimony describing the +1 rule, the belief that multiple weapons could be present and that immediate, decisive action was essential to protect lives.
And this is a man, so I have to presume he's armed based on my training. And him making that motion, which appeared to me as a classic draw stroke, the motion, if I may stand, moving directly to the side, it looked exactly like someone was drawing a pistol or some type of weapon. That's how I perceived it in that moment.
Brailsford detailed how Daniel Shaver's hand movement toward his waistband resembled a classic draw stroke, a motion officers are trained to recognize as an immediate threat. It was this split-second judgment that led Brailsford to raise his AR-15 rifle and open fire. He kept repeating the training as part of his bigger justification.
In the moment, I didn't really perceive the dialogue between the two. My main focus was on Mr. Shaver's actions and his hands.
Did you know that he had been warned what not to do with his hands?
I did know that what he had been warned.
Did you notice that that in response to the warning he said, "Don't shoot me"?
Yes.
Do you remember hearing it that night?
I didn't remember hearing it that night, but upon reviewing the video hundreds of times, I've been able, yes, that's...
And what about that he was upset and apparently crying in those seconds before the discharge of the weapon? Did that enter your mind that night as you were on lethal coverage in that few seconds?
No, that didn't enter my mind, and we're trained that we're not necessarily to pay attention to what a suspect is saying, and we're supposed to watch their actions and what they do with their hands.
The defense argued that Daniel's apparent confusion and inability to fully comprehend commands created a volatile scene. Brailsford testified that the rapid-fire instructions overwhelmed Daniel, whose intoxication may have stifled effective communication.
Was it your belief at the moment that you made the decision to fire the weapon at Mr. Shaver that it was immediately necessary to protect against his use or attempted use of bringing a weapon out?
Yes, sir.
Brailsford testified the close proximity and shifting motions created a tactical advantage for Daniel, a posture that was perceived as threatening by a young officer committed to defending his life and those of his colleagues. The technical mechanics of the shooting were laid bare. Brailsford described how he raised his weapon to his right eye, closed his left eye, aimed through the scope, and fired. A cold, tactical moment frozen in time, executed in less than a second.
And did you have a belief at the time you fired the weapon that your action was necessary to prevent the commission of the potential aggravated assault with a weapon.
It was absolutely necessary in that moment.
Terrified and under extreme pressure, Brailsford insisted his actions were consistent with his training. "I did what I thought necessary to protect my team and myself," he stated, underscoring the human element behind the decision to shoot. The defense further claimed that Brailsford's intention was not to kill, but to neutralize a perceived deadly threat quickly. He wanted to apprehend, not murder, the defense argued. After intense deliberations, the jury returned a verdict of not guilty. Outside, protesters held signs with Daniel's final words, "Please don't shoot me." For his family, the verdict wasn't just injustice, it was a second death, a message that their pain didn't matter. This outcome left Daniel Shaver's family and many citizens stunned and heartbroken and shattered. The decision ignited fierce discussion about the legal standards for police use of force and the often thin line between justified action and tragedy. Daniel's widow spoke openly about her hope for continued awareness and reform. In interviews, she described the pain of trying to explain to their two daughters why their father never came home. She said no child should have to grow up hearing that their father died, begging for his life on the floor of a hotel hallway. Her words weren't filled with anger alone. They carried the exhaustion of someone who had to make her children realize why their dad was never coming home.
It was an execution. You had a man begging for his life. And he was shot 5 times for what? For his elbow coming up too high? For being confused? For being compliant? Why did he deserve to die? He didn't.
While critics lamented the verdict as a symbol of the systemic failures to hold law enforcement accountable.
I think the bigger issue is that the system was broken.
Daniel Shaver's death resonated far beyond the narrow hotel hallway where he was killed. It sparked an ongoing conversation about policing practices, justice, and the true cost of raising a firearm in moments weighted by fear. Across the country, activists, legal experts, and ordinary citizens condemned the shooting. Demonstrations called for justice reform, transparent investigations, and enhanced police training focused on de-escalation. Social media became a torrent of reactions, some lauding officers' difficult jobs, others condemning the policy and culture that allowed such fatal mistakes to occur. The shooting renewed demands for clear use of force policies that emphasize safeguarding life above all. Advocates pushed for rigorous de-escalation training, mandatory body cameras, and a cultural shift in law enforcement agencies, away from aggressive tactics to community-based policing. Brailsford's prior disciplinary record, including an excessive force complaint, raised questions about hiring, oversight, and internal accountability within police departments. The disturbing engraving of "You're fucked" on the rifle he wielded became a chilling symbol of militant mindsets some argue must be rooted out to prevent future tragedies. Daniel's story is both a personal tragedy and a national reckoning. He lived quietly, loved his children, and died crying on a hallway floor. His final words, "Please don't shoot me," should not be forgotten. They demand reform and remembrance. The nation must grapple with hard questions. Where does justified fear end and deadly recklessness begin? How can split-second commands leave room for mercy, clarity, survival? What happened in those grim, fluorescent-lit moments forced everyone, witnesses, police, jurors, viewers, to confront how easily fear can turn into irreversible tragedy. Across America, the arguments still rage. Was Officer Brailsford's decision driven by true fear or by a culture that trains for war rather than peace? Do you believe lives should rest? And sometimes, the truth is more devastating than fiction.